So I've often thought how it's kind of funny how people who are particularly religious, I've noticed some of them will pray constantly, and they will constantly be asking God for the same things over and over again in their prayers. And I used to like laugh at that and just be like, what is wrong with these people? Or like, why don't they understand how silly that is? If your faith is there and you believe in God, an all-powerful God who's protecting you already, who created you, who loves you unconditionally, why this need for constant badgering and, ingratiating yourself and all these things? It seemed kind of pathetic and pitiful to me. Not to be judgmental or anything, but I'm just like, it seems to me like there's a lack of faith there. And this is coming from people, some people are like, high up in their church or whatever, preachers and pastors and bishops and things, and they're continuously, again, entreating their Lord, please, to intervene and, shift the events of the natural law and all these things, just to adjust them according to their will, if it would please the Lord, just begging for him to change things. And anyways, it just recently occurred to me, I started to see it in a different light. Since I've been working so much and focusing on anxiety, I've started to realize how prevalent anxiety is. It's like in everything. It exists. It's not just something about like worry about the future. I used to think of myself as not an anxious person at all, but when I started looking into it, I realized that I was riddled with anxiety, like daily, all throughout my day. My whole identity is infected with anxiousness. And so what I realized as far as prayer is that that's what these people are doing. They're praying to relieve their anxiety. And then I got it. I was like, that makes sense. Now I get it. It's not about they don't have faith. It's just, it doesn't matter how strong your faith is when you're identified as a separate individual and your worldview and paradigm is the way that almost everyone sees it. This whole dualistic realm of reality where I'm separate from everyone and everything, and things are separate from each other. And I was born in the past and I will die in a little while, not too long from now, 50 years maybe. And I'm in danger constantly, and there's limited resources, so I constantly have to work and struggle just to maintain, and or to keep what I have and to protect what I have and protect those that I love. And this is a very anxious way of looking at things. It's anxiety prone to see things this way. No matter what, no matter how strong you believe your God to be, you're going to continuously be like gravitationally snapped back into this perspective where you're in fear. And so you're going to reach out to that almighty power to protect and save you. But there's another way. If we can change our worldview and change the way that we see ourselves, we'll change the way that we see the world around us. We'll see our relationship to others and to the world and to God in a whole new light. And there's a way to see it and experience it which totally removes all anxiety. It's like, if you can get this, if you can shift out of your limited perspective, your mind identified habitual way of always seeing things, the way that everyone reinforces around you almost, everyone else is looking at it like this too. So it's hard, it's difficult, and it takes work to not just see it briefly, but to abide in it, to be able to have it as your daily experience of yourself and of life. And so as I've been making this shift, I've been learning a whole lot, and I've been, creating ways and methods of remaining in it, and also been studying from a lot of very, very powerful mentors and teachers, and just developing this skill. And it's quite profound. And so I'm going to keep sharing about it because, just notice how no matter what you do or how good you feel at any given time, at some point or another, you'll be snapped back into an anxious state, into a state of worry or fear or concern, or feeling like you're missing something. Feeling like you got to find something and you don't really know what it is maybe, or you do know what it is, but it's out of your reach right now. And this causes this anxiety within us. And what I would like for you guys to do is the next time you notice that feeling, or, just check right now, there might be some present. And just experiment with the idea of wondering that if you weren't this individual person, if you were something perhaps greater that included this individual but was not limited to it, okay? And let's say that you could expand your perspective and shift out of that limited way of seeing things, which was just one little facet of, the whole perspective, but to be able to shift into a much broader and spacious perspective, which was not limited by thought or identifications or concerns about things. Because think about it, thought in and of itself, you'll notice if you do this practice that the anxiety is being generated by a story, by some thinking going on. You're telling a story to yourself. You may not recognize it. Most of the time we don't. We just think, oh, this is just what I think. But it's not just what you think. It's a story that's going on in the background that's coloring everything that you experience. And most of us aren't aware of this. But even when we are aware of it, it becomes a challenge to get past it. We try to rationalize ourselves, and we argue with this voice, or we try to use logic to outsmart it, or we just continuously try to release the feelings and not get too attached. But that becomes tiresome, and it's like, when does it ever end? And it won't ever end. It won't. Not for you. It will never end until we discover that there is more to who we are than that limited perspective. And when we begin to snap out of that limited perspective, experience more of the depth of who we are, like in our soul, in our hearts, in our awareness, that's beyond labels, beyond our past history, beyond our name and our form and who we take ourselves to be, and all the things that we've done and all the things that we know about the world around us, and our beliefs about the world and about ourselves and about other people. All that stuff will only get in the way of seeing this, okay? So you literally cannot see it from that level of mind. You can't see it from that level of mind. You can't. You can only rationalize about it or theorize about it, but you cannot experience it or witness it. What you have to do is you got to snap out of that perspective and be able to shift your awareness into a different location and be aware from there. And I'll talk about how to do some of that, in some upcoming videos. But for right now, I just wanted to kind of lay some of the framework and get you guys thinking a little bit and just becoming more aware, really, of what's going on inside of you when you're anxious. And when you notice anxiety, you can start to discover where it's coming from. There's a number of things that you can do. We'll talk about it, but just try to be aware of where it's coming from. Is it coming from some meaning that you're giving to the situation, right? Like, this is terrible, or, if this happens, I'll lose everything. That's the meaning that you'd be giving it, It may be true, maybe not, but you're giving it that meaning. The other meaning you could give is, well, if I lose everything, I'll be completely free. Now, that's a totally different meaning. It's a radical shift. I'm not saying that you have to adopt that one, but it's possible. You can do it. You can change the meaning you give to things. That will change the way that you feel about it. But again, that's coming from this mind level, this level of rationale. That's one thing you can do in the meantime, though. And the other thing you can do, though, is you can change your identity. You can change, the person you take yourself to be so that you perceive things differently. You can create a type of identity which is basically anxiety-free. But that takes practice, and you need to be able to learn how to shift out of the current state that you're in right now. Because again, I'll repeat this, as long as you're in that state, you cannot see this. So you can't, from this state, get there. You can't stretch your awareness, make it big enough to include what I'm trying to point to. It won't work. You have to shift out of this awareness and view it from a different level of mind. When you access another level of mind, you'll have access to all sorts of other dimensions of experience and of reality. And what I start to sense, for instance, is that, wow, man, the attachment to that old identity is what caused all of my suffering. And all suffering hangs on the character. It hangs on your identity. So notice that too. And think about this. If I did not have an identity, would it be possible to suffer? Could I possibly have anxiety? I mean, where would it hang? Think about it. It's all about this character. It's all about me. If you're worried about someone dying in your family, I mean, you're worried because how this is going to affect you and your family and those that you love, right? But it's all about, if there was no you, who would care about it? And I'm not saying you shouldn't care about your family and loved ones, but what I'm saying is you can care in a way that doesn't cause anxiety. You can love them from a position of being anxious-free. It's much more effective and it feels way better. So I highly recommend exploring some of these things, and I look forward to catching you guys on another one of these real soon. All right, so, you know, in the meantime, feel free to reach out, drop me ring the bell, make sure you like this, and, you know, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. But, you know, if you want to, leave a comment in below, you know, and I usually put links in the videos also in the description as well that you can click on, you know, if you want to reach out and work with me directly, or, you know, find out about my Anxiety Destroyer program. So anyways, all that stuff's there. And, you know, in the meantime, love you guys. Much love going out to all of you, all of the one of us. And I hope to see you in an upcoming one of these real soon. All right. Peace.